we are doing chapter 6 Vampire Academy. Rose Hathaway, our main character, right? She goes to our headmistress and she's like, hey babes, so I know I'm grounded, but can I still go to church? Now, the reason why Rose wants to go to church is basically not because she's religious, but because she wants to like spend time with Lisa. She wants to get out of her room. Basically, it's something to do, right? Now, here's the thing. Rose, before this, was not religious. For that, if we look at her parents, the headmistress is like, hey, isn't your mom an atheist and your dad a Muslim? Like, how is Eastern Orthodox church relevant? And then after a moment, she's like, I don't care. If you want to go, go. We don't want to stand in the way. That is kind of the introduction. The reason I think that she put this in is because at the academy, church is not required. The reason why a lot of students do go to church is because their parents either make them or they actually just want to go, but it's not required. Okay, so Rose, she goes to church, but Lisa, Christian, is there. Rose makes a comment of like, oh yeah, it makes sense that Christian is here because Christian loves to be around the church, loves to be in the church. Granted, from what we get, not from a religious reason why he loves to be there, but again, because his parents turned Shugoi, right? And Shugoi cannot enter a church. And so if he is around a church or if he's in a church, it's basically telling everyone, I am not Shugoi. Sitting there when all of a sudden, the priest, this guy, says a specific name, Shadow Kiss Anne. So Anne is her name, Shadow Kiss is what goes, whoop, for a Rose. She's like, oh, this word is specific and specific to her, but she can't figure out why it's so special. Rose waits until after now. We talked to the priest about late failure or something like that, and it's like, hey priest, I have a question. He's like, the way that he acts is literally astronomical. Like, you think that Rose was dramatic, he was being dramatic. He was being so dramatic right now. But she's like, yeah, I want to learn more about him. And she's like, and the priest is like, okay, well, like, before that I was talking about also you didn't, and like, I've given multiple sermons, which you have been here for. And she's like, yeah, I wasn't paying attention, but I want to know now. He theorizes that the reason why she's named Shadow Kissed Anne, or referred to as that, is basically as like a title. Because basically who Anne is basically the guardian and best friend of Saint Barnabel. Saint Barnabel was a Malloy who healed people. And so because of that, he became a saint. We get so much on him later on that I don't want to give too much away. So basically, he's a Malloy. He could heal people, and they said that he was a full spirit. Now they said that she was Shadow Kissed because she would help him when times got rough for him, mentally, socially, and I guess physically, because we are left to assume that she's his guardian. With that, he's like, okay, if you want to learn more, here you go, and gives her a huge book. So this book, he's like, the saint is in here, and she's the best friend of the saint, so you should just like read more about him. And she's like, okay. Like she doesn't really come up with a retort. She's kind of just like, how it's like perceived by me is like, okay, no, I did kind of just tell him that I did not care enough to listen to him apart from this one thing, and now this one time I'm gonna ask a question, which I mean, kind of petty, I guess. Here was a scene, right? Rose, she's leaving the priest in like that little area, and is meeting back up with Lisa. With Lisa goes Aaron. They are talking about what's happening. Basically, two guardians decided to no longer be a guardian and live together and be happy and live a life together. Now, this in their society is like you don't do that. Like, what do you mean? You are not going to be a guardian even though you can be. Not only that, but you're going to be with someone that you can't have a child with biologically together. Like, that's a society, right? And Aaron, he's treating it like gossip. And Lisa, she's kind of like, guys, can we, like, why are we, like, she has reservations. Rose, she goes into it. She's like, I don't like this. I don't like this rebellion. Like they can't even have kids together. Like why is that like your number one thing? Like that's her number one thing why she doesn't like it. But also this is where we learn how like reproduction kind of works. So basically, a Malloy can have a child with another Malloy, and that will always lead to a Malloy. A Malloy can have a child with a human, and that will lead to a Dampier. Or a Malloy can get with a Dampier, and it will lead to a Dampier. Um, but two Dampiers cannot have a child together biologically. I I don't remember this. I don't think it's like mentioned here, but I can't remember if a human and a Dampier can get together. I don't think that they can, but I'm pretty sure it's in later books, so we'll figure that one out. Um, so this is where we also learn that Malloy has magic, but Dampiers all they have is physical strength. Um, but Estragoi is faster, stronger, every physical component more than a Malloy, or than a Dampier. And honestly, kind of a Dampier. Obviously, physically stronger, all that stuff, more than a Dampier and a Malloy, basically. Um, so this is also we learn kind of okay. So basically, Malloy men don't usually get with Dampier women. It's mostly like fun type of a thing for Malloy men. They usually don't stick around. Um, and Malloy women usually don't get with Dampier men. So Dampier men just assume that they can't or they're not going to be able to have a kid. And so the kind of how I can see it is Dampier men decide then that they should be guardians because they can't be fathers. So they might as well protect Malloy so that Malloy can continue to have children that will lead to Dampiers. That's kind of what I think it's going on. But Dampier men basically abandon Dampier women. That is like the harsh truth. Like they abandon their daughters. Well, they don't really have daughters, but if they can adopt. Like, but they basically abandon those sisters, their mothers, to be guardians, and that's not really like looked down upon. And then Dampier women either like they kind of have like two options. They can either go into a community or they can give up a child, like Rose's mother did, to the academy. Uh, so what a community is basically it's a whole bunch of Dampier women and Dampier children living in a group. And this is not really like, seen as like a good thing. It's honestly depicted as a brothel. That's basically how it's depicted. Um, and this is also where the term blood whores also come up because Malloy men will come and feed on Dampier women. They usually aren't seen as like the best place because usually Malloy men can get away with physically assaulting the women and children that are there. And again, Dampier men nowhere to be seen. The guardians nowhere to be seen. like honestly, they would protect the person that is abusing the women and children. This I'm upset. I'm so upset. We're gonna move on because I um so Rose is upset because these two people that left two families these two families defenseless in home line. Even though they can just get more guardians. Like yes, there are less guardians, but they won't be completely guardianless. Like these are big families that they left from. Like they can easily okay. I want to move on because I'm actually with it. Rose and Lisa and Aaron, the three of them decide to leave the church. However, Aaron, he decides to start walking kind of like slowly behind them and then stop following them. Aaron's about to know what's going to happen, but he does know. And that is as soon as these two come outside, Mia uses her powers, and this is how we find out what power she has. She's more. to basically dump the ice and all the snow that's on the roof onto them and like completely soak them. Rose gives her jacket to Lisa. Rose wants revenge. Lisa doesn't want to get it. Rose can't get it herself because she's on probation. A guy named Mason, he is a damp heel, and he basically meets Rose in the um, like dorm room, and they kind of talk. And Rose is like, "It's so crowded here that we can be out here, and like it'll be a while before they notice." Kind of. So they're talking, and Mason's just like, "Why aren't you doing anything? Like you're Rose. Why aren't you doing anything?" She's like, "Okay," and then get kicked out. Like they know I can't do anything. That's why they're doing it. Because like the implication, especially with the reputation that she has, is if she was able to, they would probably be too afraid to do anything. So now that she can't do anything, they see it as a green light. Mason is kind of just like, okay, we got you, or we got you, and tells her that Mia's parent. So basically, he tells her that Mia's uncle works for the Jovkovs, I believe, family as a housekeeper. Now, Rose just like, okay, cool. I can use this. She's like, okay, this doesn't really matter to me, but the people that she hangs out with, the Wardles, this is also really wrong. Mia ain't a Wardle. She's pretending to be, which I think that's technically not really enough to like out her like with the group, but it definitely the people that she's hanging around is very classist. So having her family also be a part of the working class, if they wouldn't take kindly to that because they want to believe that she's a royal and she doesn't have to work like they do. Okay, so that's what Mason tells her. Now, at this point, they've been out here way too long in the common area. What does this mean? This means that they have to they get talked to by a model. The model's like, you shouldn't be out here. And Mason's like, we have a project. What are we supposed to do? Be in her room? You want me to be in her room? Okay. Like, but also, like, this is a school. We have a group project for this class. What are we supposed to do? So they're like, okay, cool. You can do it for 1 hour out in your way. Have to see you walk. So what happens is Rose pulls out the book that she just got from the priest, and they um, basically read from it. This is what we learn. Um, Anna protected Saint Vladimir, um, especially when Spirit got too bad for him. She was always there, and she always knew his mind and heart. It seemed like they had a bond, and Mason discovers this bond because he's like one of these ancient texts. Whenever they refer to someone's brother and sister, that's their way of saying that they were bonded. So Rose realizes that Saint Vladimir and Anna potentially has the same bond that Rose and Lisa has, but doesn't know what that means. But it's just like, okay, maybe that's why she was called Shadow Kissed. The Guardian called Shadow Kissed. Okay, that's the end of the chapter. Hopefully I can get this all in under 15 minutes. We'll see what happens. Hope you have a good day or night whenever you're watching this. Basically, Rose is like, yeah, I don't like that. They decide to leave the church.